I know 30 seconds is fast.
Hi. Hi. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Established Facts. If you if this is your first episode of the Established Facts, welcome to the family. And we've been waiting
For so long.
So
More
long.
than 30 seconds.
So long. If this is not your first time, welcome back to the show. Welcome back to our podcast, The Established Facts. We are a roundtable discussion style podcast. If you're new to the show, if you're not, then you already knew that. Hey, right. So,
What are we doing again, Don?
So this is episode 252 of The Established Facts. So a lot has changed over the last 251 episodes. And we're going to talk a little bit about a change that has recently happened in one of our favorite role-playing game rule sets.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are not aware, the Established Facts, most of us are avid role-play gamers. I think collectively with the five of us that are on here, we've played probably at least 10, 12, 15 different systems in general or more. So
That's actually just Jason.
That's just yeah. So we're gonna talk a little bit about. As you can see, we've got a couple of books out here in front of us for the new Pathfinder, Core Remastered set. So, but before we get into that, let's go ahead and introduce our panel. I'm gonna actually start via satellite. It's been a long time since we've used those words. But via satellite, we've got a couple of our podcasters that are home and joining us, and then we'll hit the table. So it does not matter to me in what order you would like to go. All right.
Or the other way, babe.
There you go.
Hi, I'm Avital. I'm in the basement.
You're in the dungeon.
It's true, though. It is.
That's where my office is.
It's the least experienced player. We left her in the
That's
dungeon.
You're in the dungeon.
This is where
I'm upstairs.
There you go. The basement's where all good gamers start anyway, right?
It is absolutely true. I did the first game. No, it's actually on your dining room table. But the second game was in the basement.
Yeah.
So
A basement's just a classic place to play.
it really is.
Yeah. The first campaign I ever ran, we played in a basement.
Mhm.
So
Nice.
Yeah.
And who are you guys?
Yeah. To my left
Oh, I am Dr. Deb.
and to my right.
This is Josh.
That's right. And I, of course, am your host, Big Don. And again, thank you so much for joining us on episode 252 of The Established Facts. This is our Paizo Core workout.
Oh,
Okay.
That's it.
Core Remastered.
Yeah.
We
Yeah,
need
yeah.
this, Don.
Yeah, this is
Coined.
it.
The
This
core
is
workout.
The core workout?
Sure. ...
That being said, so if you are not familiar with Pathfinder, Pathfinder is a D20 based role playing system, which means you're going to be rolling a big old 20-sided die to help determine results of certain events, skills, things that might happen throughout the action of your storytelling. Paizo came out with Pathfinder First Edition 2007.
Mm-hmm.
I think is right. 2007, I
Mhm.
think, is when First Edition came out. And then a few years ago, 2019, was it right before
It was right before Chaos
lockdown, I
ensued.
think?
Yep.
Was when Second Edition came out. I think Josh is looking up the info for me.
2009.
2009
Pathfinder First
for one.
Edition.
Okay.
2019.
Ooh, I was right on
10
second ed.
years.
10 years to the dot.
10 years. All right. And
I believe that the folks at Paizo worked on D&D at Wizards. Some of the folks at Paizo worked on D&D at Wizards.
That is correct.
That's
And
correct.
if
I remember
I'm
hearing that.
mistaken,
yeah.
this is this way.
Nope. Other way.
There
Other
you
way.
go, There you go.
Other way.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Stupid thingy.
there we go.
Yeah.
This is one of the last books that they worked on.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that.
And that is Dungeons and Dragons 3.5 right there.
Good book. It's a really good book.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
That's where
yeah, I
I
was
cut my teeth was on 3.5.
I was gonna say I'm pretty sure that's kind of where Paizo cut their teeth, was doing like publishing and things like that for Dungeons and Dragons and 3.5 rule sets and supplementals and stuff like that. Which
Yeah, beginning in 2002. They were
Nice.
making Dragon and Dungeon magazines.
All right. Oh well, there you go.
I'm already on the Wikipedia page. So
Yeah.
throw
It's
it.
fine. No, it's good.
So this
It's
is
good.
either the truth or
I'm-
somebody in the basement wrote this.
I'm
I'm
right.
tall.
Exactly.
Tall.
That's right. I'm the Bobby the Brain Heenan to your
Gorilla Monsoon.
yes, to your Gorilla Monsoon. That is correct.
Wrong podcast, gentlemen.
That's all right.
Or
that's
Tony
all right.
Schiavone.
Or
depending
Tony.
on what
See,
you-
I was going with Tony Schiavone.
Okay,
just
that's
'cause-
fair.
But it still works. Anyhow, recently Paizo has announced that they have done a remaster of their second edition of Pathfinder.
Was
So,
there anything that could have encouraged them to need to develop a remastered version of 2E Donald?
I mean, I can imagine that
A small.
one of the
of-
probably one of the biggest pushes to do a remaster for their own system was something that we discussed back in January. Was that right?
Couple times now.
February was the first time I think they had just announced. Wizards of the Coast had announced that they were changing some different things about their open gaming license, their OGL license.
Yep, they closed it.
And yeah,
It's
yeah.
no longer open.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was
I
closed.
had a
Yeah.
thing in my book.
And that turned into a
Kerfuffle.
dumpster fire.
We've been told by a professional.
Yes, we called it a dumpster fire, and our friend Aaron Shanks, who helped maybe in graciously getting us PDF copies of these books, thank you, Paizo,
Amazing.
Yes,
Thank you.
called it a
Wonderful dude.
kerfuffle.
a kerfuffle. That's right. That is the professional industry term. Kerfuffle.
Kerfuffle. Or it's a dumpster fire kerfuffle if you prefer.
Yes, that's right. Us Midwesterners call it a dumpster
That's
fire.
right.
That's right.
That being said, again, Paizo has now published. They're doing a remastered GM core. They're doing a remastered player core, and then I believe we have a remastered bestiary.
The Monster Core
That's right, Monster Core. Okay,
and
Monster
the
Core makes
Player
sense.
Core 2.
Player Core 2. That's right.
Nice.
Yeah, and the other nice thing about it is, if you are a second edition player, and maybe you don't want to go out and spend a bunch of money on brand new shiny books, Paizo is also, and I feel like they always have been really good about this. When they do updates to their errata, when they do updates to their classes, they actually publish those updates in like a supplement that you can just go in and make the changes if you want to play a character that is more true to the newest rule set. So that's exciting as well.
And a reminder to anyone interested in playing Pathfinder, the entire rule set is available 100% for free at Archives of Nethys.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
So
right.
You can create with paper, whatever you want to do without having to buy a single book. Now, that said, you want them to continue making, you should probably buy something.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, like,
Make games that are not Wizards of the Coast or Hasbro.
Correct.
right.
By the way.
Absolutely. And I don't know about you guys or even our other Pathfinder players out there, but I always have like a regular core on the table, core player book on the table when I'm running or when I'm playing, just in case I need to look up a rule or a player needs to look up a rule and they don't happen to have theirs. I also have digital copies of all the stuff like that I've purchased through Paizo. But if I need like a quick reference back to like a magic item that my character has that I don't have like the specific details on,
Hello.
I will use Archives of Nethys like with the quickness. I have it bookmarked on my tablet and on my phone so that I can use it at a pinch.
Usually have it open on
Yeah.
my phone at all times, and I
Yeah.
just pop back in.
As a matter of fact, at times I will just take a screenshot of what I'm looking for so that I don't have to always go back. But their information is fantastic, and they are a really good guide as well. So there are a lot of really cool things out there that are compatible with like the Pathfinder rule set. You don't necessarily have to spend millions and millions of dollars, but again,
No.
the reason Paizo publishes these sorts of books is so that we can continue to grow and develop within this hobby of gaming. So
Yeah, they share their content. It's awesome. You don't have to pay for access.
Correct.
right,
Exactly.
unlike
Absolutely.
other
Shiny.
companies.
You pay for shiny.
Right.
Exactly.
Right. Which we pay them for a lot of shiny.
Yes.
However, again, you already said it, right? We did not actually
No,
pay
no.
for these books.
The books we did,
The books we did.
Yeah.
but we got PDF copies.
We got access. Yeah,
Okay,
we have
got
PDF
for it.
access.
But we did pay for these out of our own coffers. So, yep.
And let me
yeah.
just tell you, if you've not seen the updated art for the new books, they're gorgeous. Like these books are fantastic, and they're shiny, and they've got really cool covers.
Yeah.
But even just
The
your
layout's great as well.
say that again, Jason.
The layout is also great.
Yeah.
Ed was talking about
Yes.
that earlier, and I agree. Excellent layout designers, excellent.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I can tell that they worked hard. Well, I was going to say maybe we get into that, but I can tell that they worked and really focused on how can we make this layout smoother, cleaner, more intuitive. Yeah.
Yeah. There's an example of the cover for
That's the player
the
core.
player core.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have the GM core as
I
well?
do.
Oh, look at that.
Maybe.
Wait for it.
There you go. And there's the GM core. The GM core is really sharp.
Yeah.
That is a really pretty cover.
And I think with the special editions, they have them on the inside covers. I think you can get to them.
Yeah.
But if you're into supporting your friendly local game store, you might be able to get a set of limited edition, which I don't have those pictures with me at the moment. But
Those
they're
are the ones with like the white.
the black and white. They're
Black
the,
and-
the
oh
sketch
my
art.
gosh,
it's that
they're
art, but
so
it's
cool.
in sketch, like a black and white front. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah. Now, that being said, now that we've gotten a chance to talk about the cover of these books,
That's how you start.
No,
right?
no, it's good.
These are
It's good.
embossed.
That's
Like,
right.
They've got like an imprint on the inside of them also for
Yeah.
the dragon.
yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
So let's talk a little bit about what's inside of the book. So, do we want to start with the GM core? Or we want to start with the player core?
I think we start with player.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
Dr.
first?
Deb, if you want to kind of take the helm on some of the player core stuff, and then Jason Avital, if you have observances and things that you guys want to throw into the conversation, let's do it. Let's talk a little bit about some of the changes that we've noticed, some of the layout of the player core, and yeah, we'll just start from there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just looking at the player table of contents at the moment, and in that, it's not that different from the other one, but already just the way that they lay it out. So chapter 1 introduction, not a shocker, but I already love how they actually specifically talk about Galarian in the inner sea region. Like they give you a nice map and they actually describe all of those regions. So that way, if you're brand new and you want to play in Galarian, which you certainly don't have to with Pathfinder, but if you want to, it gives you a much better layout of it. Because I know there were times when I'd be like, okay, we're in Mwangi. Okay, now we're in Absalom. Now we're in, and you figure like, where exactly, what's the environment like? What are the people like? What's the society like? And I'm just like trying to figure that out. They give you a quick layout of that in the introduction, which is great. They also crack right into it in introduction in religion, which as we chatted before, is a very interesting. There's some interesting changes that they've done. I don't know if we want to touch on them now, or should we just keep gliding over at 30,000 feet?
Well, I think
dive.
just a quick general identification. So typically in like a Pathfinder game, I would say as a player, the only time, or even as a GM, the only time that I really have my players focus on their faith and on their religion is when it has a connection to their actual character class, right? It's just like, okay, cool, you are a follower of Desna, you're a cleric of Desna. These are certain things that you have access to with Desna as your chosen deity. And then you're also going to have some specific things that your character would not normally do based on the canon of that deity. But otherwise, I don't typically focus too hard on it. But I will say the changes that they have made, which, Deb, we can definitely go into a little bit more detail on that if you want.
Yeah.
Or we can keep moving forward, whatever you guys want to do. But
I was going to add kind of off of what you just said.
Yeah.
So, this is going to be I'm sure, a topic, and I know Jason has his comments to bring about it. But one of the big shifts that happened is the removal of alignment.
Right.
Alignment had a lot to do with how you were connected to your deity through your particular classes. So in player core, when we go through classes, you'll notice the cleric's in here, the champion's not. And the champion's going to be reserved for next to August player core 2. But one of the things that they did was define that connection through edicts and anathema. So edicts are the things the deities support, anathema are the things they don't. But that also comes into this mechanic of sanctification.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be in some of the particular classes sanctified by your deity to gain the holy or unholy trait, which were things that were related to good and evil in different versions. So sometimes sanctification is just a matter of, do you believe and are you following the edicts and anathema? And if that's enough, that gets it. Whereas some of the deities actually require you to pledge your full allegiance to them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And if you mess up at all, you
Yeah.
lose it all.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that's pretty typical from previous editions. Like, and I know this isn't D&D, it's Pathfinder, but it's all based off of that
Yeah.
initially. And yeah, if a paladin breaks their oaths, no more paladin stuff. Even a cleric,
Mm-hmm.
you go against your deity, you're gonna lose access to your spells. You're not really a cleric of that deity anymore. As far as any other character, I kind of understand what you're saying, Don. Of like, it's not as important for those other characters because it doesn't mechanically affect them, but it also like,
Yeah.
and the story is heavier with a character who is connected to a deity at all, right?
Yeah.
But I think in looking at it in a classical and an anthropological way, which I do when I run games, like characters have belief systems. People from a certain cultures have
Right.
certain belief systems. So
Right.
when you choose something from a culture, you have a belief system. Now it's all up to the player, right? Like when we sit down and play, I don't make any of my characters choose gods. But if they're like, I like this one, I want to worship this one, then I do have that somewhat impact their character. It's not like they also get cleric powers too, but it is like those teachings and that culture will influence their, the decisions they might make or the things
Right.
they might choose to do, or their alignments, which I know is no longer a thing in Pathfinder. It's also basically no longer a thing in D&D. They're getting rid of it also.
Right.
Um, the heavens why I don't know, because evil creatures are evil creatures and good creatures are good creatures.
How does that work?
Yeah. But what I do like is what Pathfinder has done with the anathema and the edicts, right?
Mhm.
Like
Right. Yeah.
that's reminiscent of things like Seventh Sea from a long time ago, even current
Right.
Seventh Sea,
Yep.
and other games that pull more on like your vices and virtues or things like that, right?
Yeah.
Even Vampire,
I
right?
was literally getting ready to bring that up. Like Vampire the Masquerade, you're always kind of this shade of gray, but it's like, are you a light gray? Are you a dark gray? Has your gray turned into black? Has your light gray
Right.
turned into white? Like, yeah.
And that those games aren't really well. Okay, Seven Seas hero fantasy, Vampire not hero fantasy, Pathfinder is definitely hero fantasy, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Or villain
Yeah.
fantasy. Either way, you can
Yeah.
depending on what you choose there. So I like that they're making the attempt to be able to play, good or bad guys, right? Just in a different way.
Yeah.
And go
Let
ahead,
him
go
finish
ahead,
his
go ahead.
sentence.
No, it's funny you say that because I remember specifically reading, and I know that there's always the flexibility of the role playing. They actually discourage evil character play in Pathfinder.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
When?
Yeah.
I'm with Jason. Really?
There's a whole like
There is.
I have to find it, but there is a whole like article particularly about it, how everyone is to sit at the table with effectively a good thing in mind. Like they do not want
They
players.
want you to play a hero. They
Yeah.
want you to play. The idea is you are playing a hero. Even if you're playing an anti-hero, you're still kind of riding that line, because when you slip into the evil spectrum, that's when you start acting adversely to the rest of the party.
Oh,
That's when it.
PvP could happen. At
Yeah,
that
like
point,
yeah.
right?
There's a lot there.
You
There's
could
a
have
Pandora's box.
interplayer dynamics that you could probably get
Yes.
pretty ugly pretty quick. I
You
could
can do that
imagine.
when you're all good too.
That's
Like,
true.
Well, that's
Oh,
true.
yeah,
true.
Oh, don't worry. We had that not
I-
too long ago.
I-
it's
They have
I
like
would vehemently disagree with them on that. And
sure. They have like one paragraph in here just kind of generally explaining the philosophy of how they see Pathfinder, and then I don't think it gets brought up again. So I
Well,
think
you know, I mean, Zuckerberg has a philosophy about meta too, and he's wrong about it also.
Well,
like-
and go ahead. Sorry, Piercy.
No, that's it. That's it. I just think like you can't sit down and tell people, well, you shouldn't play evil characters. Like, no, man. If you want to tell that story of like, here's what happens when this orc warband went in and destroyed this dwarven village,
Right.
and we're gonna run that adventure. Like, I think that's a very small way of seeing an adventure, right? because it doesn't have to always be a giant campaign. It can be,
Right.
hey, let's run this like bank vault robbery where we're all thieves into this thing, and then let's run another game later. Now you, my friend, tell the story of the other people trying to stop that, or they're the people in the
Right.
aftermath of that tracking down those villains or those thieves.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think it just that limits the stories you can tell too much, and I think it's not a I don't know, maybe their core target audience is probably younger than us, right? Though we
Yeah.
are still part of the core audience, but I think it limits the types of tales you can tell and sit at a table and have with each other. And having some adversarial interaction at a table with your friends isn't always bad, so long as you're all mature enough to understand that it's not real. If you're not, then yeah, please follow their guidelines.
So
Because I
that
literally just, you took the words out of my mouth. I said, I think
yep.
this has to be in the
Sorry.
maturity of your table. No, because think
Yeah.
about it, right? If you got a set of, okay, you do it, buddy. 5-year-old. If you have a bunch of 14-year-olds that you're running for versus if you've got some nearly 40-year-olds that you're running for, right? I think that would have a lot to do. You know, if we have got a table of 4 35-year-olds and 2 16-year-olds, I'm going to encourage the 16-year-olds to be on the hero side of the line. And I'm probably going to, you know, if we do need that antagonist, darker character, I'm going to ask a more experienced person in life and gaming to play that because they're going to know where that line is, or they should know where the line is.
So I can't for the life of me remember where I read that. I remember reading it, but this paragraph, I think this is right from the player core. It was probably in the core rule book, but it's extremely important. Whether you're the GM or a player, participating in tabletop role playing game includes a social contract. Everyone's gathered together to have fun. For many, role playing is a way to escape the troubles of everyday life. Be mindful of everyone at the table and what they want out of the game. When a group gathers for the first time, they should talk about what they hope to experience at the table, as well as any topics they'd like to avoid. Everyone should understand that elements might come up that make some players feel uncomfortable or even unwelcome. Everyone should agree to respect those boundaries during play. That way, everyone can enjoy the game together. Pathfinder is a game for everyone, regardless of their age, gender, race, or ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, or any other identities or life experiences. It's the responsibility of all of the players, not just the GM, to make sure the table is fun and welcome for everyone.
And honestly,
So good.
like, um, that is it talks a little bit about it in the GM core as well. Setting lines and veils, and this is something that they have had in Paizo's Pathfinder books. I think even since first ed. And if you're not familiar with lines and veils, that's totally fine. I'll give you a very very brief definition. But lines and veils really just takes a nod to what are the limits within your gaming group. So if there are specific topics or specific themes that you refuse to play in, that's a line. It's a hard line in the sand to say I'm not going to play a game that involves this. So if your game if your party is like, "Hey, I am not interested in playing in a game where one of our characters is evil." You know, there might be some flexibility depending on what you define as evil or what the story progression of a character is. Maybe all of your characters start out as good characters or holy characters, in this means, but then eventually you have a character who, based on something that happens in the game or something that happened in their backstory, can change into something that's a little bit more of an unholy type character. I think it's up to every gaming group to make those definitions, and then veils are things like if you have like a love scene with somebody, like those are things that are kind of done in obscurity, and these are the things that it talks about in like the beginning of the GM core. It's one of the qualities of having a successful table. Every table is going to be completely different. There are going to be some tables.
It's lines veils? Right there,
What's that?
page
Oh,
7.
is it in the player core as
Everything I
well?
was no, it's
Okay.
GM core. Everything I was
Yeah.
just talking about,
Yeah.
page 7. It's on page 7
There you go.
of the GM core.
Page 7 of the GM core. Boom. There you go. But yeah, setting lines and veils is a huge thing. And if an evil campaign is something that you are completely opposed to, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, because sitting down, like it says, sitting down at the table to play a role playing game, and I think we would all agree with this. Sitting down at the table to play a role playing game is more about all of us spending time, having fun, playing characters, in a fantastical, whether it's a like real world fantastical theme, or if it's a high fantasy fantastical theme, or something like that, something noir, whatever it is. We're playing characters. We're acting things out. We're playing pretend with one another. And it's never going to be fun to play pretend with people who are going to be constantly opposed to what the table wants to do.
So I'm going to stand corrected. They don't stand against evil. They have a
Okay.
particular list of acts that they are like. It literally says the following acts should never be performed by player characters: torture, rape, harm to children, owning slaves, reprehensible uses of mind control magic. Like it says that specifically. It does provide a list of things that may be problems for other people,
Sure.
or like romantic and sexual relationships, though they may happen in the game. It's advised that those happen off screen.
Right. Again,
Not,
that's an example of a veil.
and in regards to those acts that they say players should not do, they comment that villains may do those, but again, should happen off screen. So I think what they're doing is trying to set a precedence of, we know that you guys are going to be creative and you're going to do certain things or whatever, but we are very clearly, as a group of Pathfinder
Yeah.
developers,
Yeah.
we do not want this at our table.
Yeah.
So,
Which
so what I think they're trying to do is cover their ass legally.
Oh.
probably. Yeah, probably.
I gotta
And
get the
that's
Mario
about it.
jump out.
Uh-huh.
Because like I think I don't like well, whereas I may agree, right? Like all those things are terrible things in the real world. You also don't want to cause trauma to your players,
Right.
Yes.
and
Right.
and so but like there are things that history, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like many cultures have owned slaves.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's terrible. Do not do it.
Right.
Yes, that's a thing that the bad guys do. Uh, but I also think that as a person from a different perspective, like to walk a mile in another's shoes is to understand why that's not a good thing.
Right.
Mm.
And that
To-
can also
to-
be a unifying or motivating factor for your party,
Right.
which actually have happened in a few games I've been at, is when one of those terrible things has happened. Now, not described in gory detail, not hardly,
Yes,
but that it
yes,
was
yes.
presented as something that did happen. Then all of a sudden it became a pivotal moment, a unifying moment, a we're all in kind of moment. It can actually be used as a powerful motivating factor with a careful respect of what you're doing, to be able to move people on in the story or what their character is going to become next. You present that, well then maybe this character, without that, maybe your paladin doesn't realize that they actually want to be a freer of slaves. Like maybe that is what
The
their
liberator.
deity, the liberator, right? Maybe that's what their deity has called them to. Well, without that ownership of slave, you cannot.
It becomes a moot point.
It becomes a moot point.
Yeah.
Right.
And
So-
and I think that's like if you're trying to run something on your own, like obviously their setting is not totally is like that, and I get
Yeah.
the reasons why, and that's completely understandable, and I think it's really well written. But if you're like trying to play with your friends something more sword and sorcery, in that Robert E. Howard style, older, and again there's problematic stories with some of his stuff and Lovecraft stuff, but regardless of that, if you're trying to get that more grit, then
Yeah.
like I think that goes back to the statement we made, or the idea we're talking about of like, well, are you all mature enough at the table to understand
Right.
that A, this isn't real, B, this isn't good,
Right.
C, you're exploring the topic to really kind of come to terms with it sometimes.
Yeah.
And for some
like-
people, that's what they need. Others
Yeah.
want nothing to do with it because I just don't even
Yeah.
want to think about it.
Right.
Right. And it's
Yeah,
and
and
it's
that's fine. That's fine.
right.
Yeah. Once
And-
again, your lines and your veils, right?
Exactly. And
I
think
wasn't expecting this to go here.
Yeah,
but this
exactly.
is good
No,
stuff.
that's fine. It's fine. Well, I think it's good when we're looking at a new rule set. It's good to have a new understanding or a fresh understanding of what a table is like. Right? We don't know who has gotten an opportunity to play Pathfinder and who hasn't, or who has gotten a chance to play in general a role playing game and who hasn't. But it's important when you are interested in those sorts of things to have this kind of a knowledge and understanding to say like, it is totally appropriate for you as a player to say, I am not interested in playing a game where one of our party members is an evil character. I'm not interested in playing in a game where we're going to be dealing with, torture or something along those lines. Like, it is 100% healthy to set those boundaries as a player at a table. And if you have a table that is opposed to what you are setting as one of your lines, then there are 150 million different tables to sit at. There are players that you can find that are going to be on the same page with you. And I think that if everyone comes to the table in general, which I think is kind of what it's saying in a nutshell, if everybody comes to the table, GM and players included, with a level of respect for everybody at the table to all have a good time, then this is not going to be a hard conversation to have anyway.
Right.
It really isn't. Like we're kind of beating a dead horse a little bit and just like kind of continuing to dig into it. But it is very important to talk about. Like as we're getting started into a new rule set, these are the things that you want to make sure that you are always staying aware of. Is what are your players down for and what are they not? What is your GM down for and what are they not? So,
All
Deb.
right, so that was the deity discussion.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot how we got onto that, but yeah, holy and unholy. There you go. There
No, I
you
mean, it's
go.
fair. That's all fair.
Yeah,
Well, I'm not totally. I'm gonna just a little dodge back in there. Of there will be times that you will need to speak up during when yes at the beginning, heavens yes, but sometimes you don't realize that something is a trigger
yeah,
until you're in a
in it.
certain situation, and then all of a sudden you're like, why am I pinging right now? Why am I so
Yep.
something's not quite right?
The
And
X
so
card.
the X card,
They
right?
have a whole thing in here
Yeah.
about
Page 7.
page
Well, that's-
7. Page 7 of
that's
GM Core.
But I was just sitting here thinking and going,
a lot of
okay, so
games.
there is something that I can think, okay, so I'll say it. I don't mind if it's out on video. So, okay. So I can say that at the beginning of a conversation, I don't think that I would present the idea of a player actively experiencing loss of memory and all of that process that happens with that as something that I would immediately put back, like that's a line I'm not comfortable crossing. And yet I can imagine if that's starting to happen at a table, that will start to ping me and it will be difficult for me to play in that. So I can imagine being like, oh, we didn't talk about this at the beginning, but I'm not in an
Right.
okay place right now.
Yep.
Can I lay the X card down and then maybe we pause the game, or at the end of that session explain this is going on with me, and we kind of need to have a little bit of a reset because I didn't know it at session 1. Now we're in session 11 and going, oh,
Yeah.
I'm not okay here.
This
So
is the
you have
trigger point.
right.
Yeah.
You have permission throughout the process to be able to go, this is a place that I'm not okay going right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that should be something you can revisit.
Page 7.
That's right, page 7 of
Absolutely.
GM Core.
And that's the lines and veils and the X card are not anything new,
They're
Right.
not.
No.
but
No.
it's very nice that
Yeah.
that Paizo is still going forward
Yep.
with just reminding people, it's like, hey guys, be considerate to each other when you're playing,
Right.
please.
Yep.
Remember,
But
this is
but
a
there is
social
something
contract.
I would very much like. I'm curious about Avital's like take on this, because I know, like, as we've played in many games together, there have been instances where things like this have come up, and so as someone kind of, you know, on that side, like, I'm really curious about the thoughts in the good and evil and deities and lines and veils and how those things cross to you.
What was the specific question? Say-
Your opinion
was
on
a
what we've
very-
been talking about.
I've been listening, but like, say again. What
Just
do
your
you
opinion on what we've been talking about. That's all.
about
Lines
good
and
and
evil
veils
and
in playing?
deities and
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's for me. I don't know. Like, I personally couldn't play an evil character because, like, you know, I don't know. Whenever I played like Fable 2, I couldn't ever make myself do any of the like bad things at all, right? Like, I just can't. It's just not for me. But I don't know. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with exploring, you know, things that exist and things that happen, and I don't know. These things are real, whether if you're adding a fantasy aspect to them or not, right? Like, they exist. But yeah, like, people can be uncomfortable with things, and whether you have a specific system to be like, I'm holding up whatever, or you just say, hey, I can't deal with this, and then it's either you step back or it stops entirely, or just depending. I mean, a lot of that really just depends on your your group, I would think, right? Like
Yeah.
whoever you're playing with. Like it's really, people are so different, and even like a group of people, you could change one person, and the group is just very different. You know
That's
what I
true.
mean?
Yeah, that's very true.
So everything really just has to be worked out with each group individually, as to what you are okay with and whatever. I still don't understand exactly how taking alignments away works. Genuinely, I don't understand how that works. Especially for a lot of like spells and stuff that are like have to do with that. I don't understand how that
They're
works at
they're
all.
re,
But
they're renaming the line. The lines are basically the same, but they're renaming the lines. So your necromantic spells that might be considered evil, your vampiric touch or raise undead, they're now considered unholy instead of holy, because they would be blessed by that which is unholy instead of that which is considered holy. And then again, you kind of, well, what does holy and unholy mean? Good and
yeah,
evil.
what's the point of that then?
Uh,
That's exactly what I just thought. I was like,
That's pointless.
well, then what's
Sorry.
toilet?
Yes,
Okay.
It's
I was
it's
listening, but
to
some of it
to
was just
to Jason's credit, I think that it's honestly just an opportunity for them to differentiate themselves from the commonality that we all know, and also to cover their rears just in case,
Mm-hmm.
they don't have to worry about, oh, well, it's not good or evil, it's holy or unholy. Like it is, there's
Right.
a different focus. I will say this, as somebody, and I know that I started out this conversation with making this comment, as somebody who doesn't focus super deeply on like deific connections in their games, I do think that the idea of kind of riding that line of holy and unholy acts is something that really pushes the relationship that somebody might have with their deity into more of a forefront than
Mm-hmm.
just like, oh, if I don't have Desna as my deity, I can't cast Dreamwalk or something like that. Like, versus it being just a mechanical thing, it seems to be both a narrative and mechanical option.
well,
So,
in Edicts and Anathema, look like, other than specific characters that look for sanctification,
right,
is considered optional and voluntary.
right.
Um, this paragraph from the remaster core preview tried to explain the concept of alignment has been removed from the game, replaced with tools more directly pointed at what those rules attempted to accomplish. Creatures no longer have alignment, though some follow edicts and anathema or are sanctified to holy or an unholy cause. Both of these struggles are key to the setting of Pathfinder. So I guess they're just going with the alignments muddied the waters, so let's change it. I guess that's the stand.
It,
Okay.
they didn't
so
really muddy the water, but yeah.
I I guess I can kind of see what they were going for, and also this could allow you for like more expression in your games, because instead of it being this like, my alignment is neutral, good, or whatever, it is very much just this whole like sliding scale, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it honestly leaves you more room for like gray area, right?
Yeah.
Like how, this thing that I've done makes me just a little bit more unholy. This thing that I've done makes me a little bit more holy. Like, is there a sliding scale? So instead of it just being like, oh well, I have to do so many bad things before my alignment switches over to evil, it's like the more bad things you do, the farther you go towards being fully unholy. So that can allow for more expression,
Well,
instead of it just being like a line of like, this is my one alignment, this is my one alignment, which, and it's like there's times where it's like, well, you absolutely wouldn't and couldn't make that decision because your alignment is this. Well, anybody can make any decision
Mm-hmm.
technically, right? So I can see kind of what they can go for there and how that could not be a good thing. So
I always struggled with chaotic, neutral, lawful. So I play good, but then I would be like, now, typically as a person, I do tend to follow the rules. However, if I do not believe that that law is for the greater good, I would break. But if I'm a lawful good
Right.
character, I can't. So I nearly always pick neutral good because I was like, well, I'm just going to walk the line. I'm going to float in between. But then if I'm just neutral good, just trying to do my best, does that really define anything? That just says that I'm in the middle and good. Like, what does that mean?
I appreciate you, Jason, because I did the same thing.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't. I
So
wasn't
if
looking at you
we
guys.
No, it's okay. It's okay. If we want to at some point ever do a podcast on the alignment system and how it
Again.
works, what it means, and like
Again.
really the like useful interpretations, I would be happy. Yeah, again, I would be very happy to do that
Well, I think we need to
because
come out
yes,
because
you
we're
can be a
basically
lawful
doing
good
that right now,
character.
aren't we?
No, it's coming back.
No, no, no,
I
no. I don't.
spoiler.
I think yeah.
We're
Yeah, yeah,
bringing
yeah.
we're bringing the alignment series back because I think we've all since 12 years
Yeah.
kind of learned some new stuff, and we have new blood that we want to get some other input. So
I'm sorry. We
anyway,
camped out on chapter 1. We haven't even
yeah,
looked at the
Nope.
rest of it.
Page
Wrong book.
7 of
Seven.
GM
we
Core.
just spent 30 minutes on page 7.
But still, I'd say that means that
There's
I
so many
understand
good
why they
words on
changed
page
it.
7.
But that
Yeah,
tells us
definitely.
that they did something that was pretty impactful, right? If we're
Right.
having
Right,
a
right.
30-minute conversation about this is kind of a big deal.
And they've taken influence from other games that have done similar-ish things. They've done their own thing, definitely, right? But this isn't a completely brand new concept. But I think they're presenting it in a way in their own world, in their own system, separating from what Hasbro, separating more from the D20 Hasbro Wizards of the Coast system to really make it their own, and that's why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think for
Yeah.
for use in their system, I think it works really well. And honestly, if I were running this at my table, I would use the edicts and the anathemas
Oh yeah.
because to
yeah.
me
Yeah.
those are the correlation to law and chaos.
Yes.
Not
I agree.
totally right, but that's the correlation to like here's what you will do, here's what you won't do.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm looking-
And I
oh,
have every
sorry.
character pick.
That's
so
fascinating.
laws and chaos. So another point that kind of came up in the damage. So they just recently released the Rage of Elements book. Rage of Elements was released with the remaster text already in it,
Right.
except for a new damage type, spirit damage.
Yes.
All chaotic, lawful, evil, good damage, all now packaged into spirit damage. All of it is.
Interesting. Intriguing. Huh.
So instead of you getting a boo boo, they're just literally ripping pieces of your soul out.
I guess
That's better.
Well, it's for possessed beings and creatures that are not of the material plane or whatever they
Non-corporeal?
call it, something else. Now, the material plane also got to change, and that's something I definitely like to talk about. The universe that are not of the physical universe, that are of the
Yeah.
spiritual universe, and that's why they did that. It just applies across that way. Again, it's separating their cosmology, separating their story, separating their system from what they were connected to before. And I believe this is all an effort to go forward with the orc
Yep.
and
Yes.
have it be much more open and what. And I'm like, hats off to you guys. Like, you're really thinking about this. You really are creating something new.
They also have atheism and green faith in their faiths. So if you
yeah.
do not
Green faith.
want to swear allegiance to any deity, you could have atheism, which atheism edict is pursue your own agenda with faith in your ability to excel. And there's green faith, which is more along the lines of a druid, which is you view nature as divine and you draw strength
Yeah.
from the knowledge of their place in the natural order of things.
Oh, I am super curious to see an atheist champion now.
I don't.
it's right
I
there.
think that is a very poor word to choose for what they described
I agree.
because
Yeah,
that is not what
can you
atheism
read it
means.
again? 'Cause it didn't
Humanist.
sound-
When you
I'll read
live
it.
in a universe
short.
where there are gods are real and their divine emissaries, clerics, and paladins exist, you cannot have atheists who don't believe in gods because, dude, they're there. Like, they're,
I'll read
this
you the
isn't a question
sentence.
of whether
It's
they
pretty
exist.
short.
So
I want- I
would
wanna hear-
suggest
I wanna
they
hear the,
change
uh,
that terminology, not
description
atheism.
again.
That is
Well-
not what it means.
Page 39 of the player's book, if we're calling pages, page 39, atheism. While most concede that the gods exist, some do not view them as worthy of worship, and a few even deny their presence altogether. Edicts pursue your own agenda with faith in your ability to excel Anathema, offer prayers to a deity. That's all it says.
Yeah,
So
that's not
I don't
atheism.
think atheist is really the right word because it says
Not the right
some of
word.
them don't think the gods are worthy and some of them deny that they exist. That just in a world where it's very clear that they do exist, that's just crazy.
I agree.
That's
Yeah.
just insane.
Because the
That's just
person
a
who
of
does not view them as
insanity.
worthy of worship is not an atheist.
The
Like,
first one,
That's
yeah,
just
the first one.
that's
Maybe
just
an
a That's
agnostic?
just letting people who want to play wizards that don't want to worship gods have an out.
right, right.
But like, yeah, I think they're trying to
Walk the line and maybe not
for
doing it
everything,
great.
like, oh, this is acceptable to everyone, and gods are this because some people can't separate the idea that religion, the fantasy religion, is not real religion. So, and people who might be, I don't know, man. I just think it's a poor term because that's not what atheism is.
It is
Like, if you guys watch this,
yeah.
change that term. That is not atheism. Atheism cannot
Or
exist in a
reword it.
fantasy world where gods are real.
Right. I
Full stop.
yeah. I maybe you're agnostic, but then we go get over into the definitions of agnosticism, and that's
No,
another.
even then.
No, it's almost in the realm of like, it's hard to say humanism when you know there are multiple like species available, but
But it's
But-
closer to humanism than it is atheism.
100%. I agree. But so you just call it something else, make up your
Yeah.
own word or whatever, and
They've made up some other new words. Find another new word.
You like Shakespeare.
It's the faith of
The self.
yeah, there you go.
Selfism.
Selfism.
it's it. It's selfishness.
Oh,
Yeah. I mean, that's actually what it is.
I think you're right, but I would never, ever, ever have said that.
Definition of selfishness, page 39 of
Page
the player's
39 of
core.
the player's handbook.
Boom. We love it though. Just change your word, guys. Atheism is not what that is.
Ah,
Oh, that is not what you
Get a
just
label
described.
maker and just put selfish across atheism.
I'm all right with that. The book's right. Whichever one of these books, let's do
No,
it.
these are still pretty. There's I just opened them.
I'm all right drawing it out with
Oh
a black
my
pen.
So
goodness.
speaking of changes,
Oh Lord.
it's ancestry conversation. 45
Yeah.
minutes later.
Yeah, it is. That's right. Legit. Now for another 45-minute
So
conversation.
in the ABCDs now, apparently of character creation.
Yep. Yep.
Ancestry's backgrounds, classes, and details. Details would be a big element on the edicts and anathema, obviously,
Yeah.
and makes a huge part of even determining your classes. But ancestries have gotten a couple of fun additions and not removals. Again, a very important element that Paizo has continued to say is if it hasn't been remastered, it is still eligible. And even if it has been remastered, play it however you want to play. Just understand that they're done printing the core rule book. You want new Pathfinder books, you're getting the remastered edition. Like that's effectively what they're doing now. So, but if it's not in here, it's in one of the other books, you can still use it.
Yeah. So they've got the ones this is of course the first book. We have classics. We have dwarf, elf, gnome, goblin made it into here.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. All right, Cruffle. Halfling, human.
Goblins were in second ed.
Yeah,
though.
they were in the
Yeah,
core.
yeah.
Yeah, but they made it into here. Halfling, human, leshy,
Mushroom
and
people.
orc.
What'd you say?
Mushroom people.
Mushroom people.
people.
Plant whatever.
Maybe they're part of the green faith. Maybe they worship nature.
That's how.
That
Well,
makes
that's
sense.
how. That's how leshies were created.
Yeah. Well, okay.
Yeah.
They are a druidic creation.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. So those are the our starting 8 in this one. Of course there's, and of interesting, then we get versatile heritages, which gets real fun real quick with the changeling, which is, we could go into that because Jason and I were chatting a little bit about that a little bit before. The Nephilim, and then mixed ancestry, which has got some really interesting new words that they have invented for mixed ancestry.
Well, so what
yeah.
is it about the changeling is hag bloodline,
Right, which Jason and I had a really, well, actually, I'll let you. Jason, you were the one who made this comment. It's very interesting that they do this, right? Because...
Yeah. So hags kind of don't make sense to me. I mean, I suppose like in the idea that, a hag doesn't walk around the bog looking like themselves to entice someone to come in and breed with them to have other hags, right? Because they're nasty, weird. I don't know. They used to be aberrations. I don't know what they are in this. Like other editions call them fae. They're not that. Whatever. It doesn't matter what type of monster. The monstrous humanoid makes sense to me. But they're not really shape changers. So something that's a changeling, right? Like why isn't a doppelganger kin? Why isn't it related to doppelganger?
Yeah.
That would be a changeling. Something that has like something that's part
Like
doppelganger, or
the actual physical ability to change
Mm.
yourself.
Because I don't think they
yeah,
can. From what I'm
Yeah.
reading, the changeling can't change, which is
yeah, it
also
doesn't
very
make sense.
odd to me.
Which
I agree with Jason because the wording
Well,
isn't great
and
there.
all I'm remembering about the hag is it just finished Baldur's Gate 3, and the hag in D and
yeah,
D apparently swallows children and then rebirths them as new hags.
well, yeah, that's an old
Yeah,
school
Disgusting.
folk tale
yeah,
But yeah,
look on it,
okay.
and that's where
Yeah.
I think Pathfinder's trying to get with that because like the changeling from like folklore is a little more Fey related, which is why there are games called Changeling that are Dark White Wolf put out a long time ago. But I think that's probably more what they're going for with that, but it has nothing to do with like what they really can do. And then you're also missing opportunities of making like lycanthrope kin.
Mm-hmm.
So either
Yeah.
creatures that can like change their form like doppelgangers, but maybe not as awesome as doppelgangers, and or beings that like can change their form into specific things. And much like the Nephilim, which I'm like, oh, like big clap for me, big clap from the Nephilim. Let's
yeah.
just take all the outer plane or the planar races and put them into one thing I'm calling the Nephilim, plus like a great nod back to history, which is why I think where the changeling comes from for the hag. But it just doesn't. You could have rolled a few more things into that, and I think that'd be really cool. And things that already exist in other stuff that you can change and make your own.
Yeah.
That would be really cool.
I think it would be interesting to examine the idea because in second edition they made certain pixie or certain fey races like pixie and things like that actual playable races.
Yep.
Like they actually have a ancestry and heritages and things like that that you can choose. I think that it almost makes more sense that if you're going to give it like shades of, if you're going to call a hag a fae, just make it a fae race or make it like a delineation of fae. Like maybe they are the children of humans and nymphs, or
Right.
pixies, and like uh, I'm trying to remember. I think with the pixie in second ed, there was a variant of pixie, like an ancestry of pixie, where you're just like essentially you're almost like a brownie from Willow. Like you're a really small guy. You're smaller than a halfling, right? But you're
Hmm.
not like
You're
teeny
tiny.
tiny like like Tinkerbell.
Yeah.
Which that one is the actual pixie. I think is that one,
Yeah.
or
That one's
Hmm.
sprite. I
tiny.
can't remember.
You can play a pixie, but they have a very
Yeah,
high addition to your like level adjustment
Mm-hmm.
in that
yeah,
system.
right. And so I think it would be interesting, like if you're going to add a core race like a changeling, have it, like you said, have it be connected to something that has either the ability to change itself physically or perhaps magically, so that you never really know what that person looks like. Like when I think of a changeling, probably one of the best examples that I can think of is like Mystique or Morph from X-Men.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like something that can either take on the abilities of somebody else, like through an empathic bond, or can just take on the physical nature of something else to disguise itself or what have you.
Well, so here's the
Yes.
thing: looking a little bit at the hag, though they don't have the ability to change themselves, they do hide their hag features and change and use them through feat selection between claws and spell capabilities and being able to blend in to the surroundings based off of those backgrounds. So I think they're trying to kind of go with that because hags are not always easy to spot. You're not sure, like, is that actually, like, was that a hag, or like you don't spot them.
Yeah,
Thus the changeling is kind of that's why,
like
because
a
they,
hide in plain sight sort of race.
yeah,
I
Yeah.
mean, so are doppelgangers.
right,
Exactly.
So
Uh-uh.
are lycanthropes.
Yeah.
See
So
that when
like,
I think changeling, also I when you said lycanthrope, that's where my brain went to. Was
Mm-hmm.
like I remember when changelings were like the same or equivalent to like a Dampier. Like they're the offspring, like further down offspring of a werewolf or something like that. Maybe they don't have the same potency of
right,
like
right.
trying like changing into a hybrid form, but they could shift into like a an animal or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think with the Nephilim and the mixed ancestry
Mm-hmm.
that they have a basis to set this up to choose to maybe give players a little more choice with, as opposed to
Yeah.
the limit, because Nephilim is really not is pretty unlimited,
Yeah.
with like
Yep.
what you can design with your planar touched uh,
Mm-hmm.
creature, ancestry. So why
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
do the
part of
same with
bestial
changeling?
manifestation is a first level feat if you're a Nephilim.
Yeah,
Part of your
yeah,
body has an animalistic influence from a planar creature. Your hands end in claws. You have hooves instead of feet, sharp teeth in your mouth. You have a tail. Like, that's feat one for a Nephilim. So, I mean,
right.
hello.
And and in that same breath,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I'm done on ancestries and backgrounds, but everybody else, please keep going. I think in that same breath, you can widen changeling to make it much more interesting, much like the Nephilim. And what happened to the anamorphic races? Where's
Yeah.
your lizard folk?
Mm.
Where's your Kenku or your Tengu? Where is
Maybe
your
that's
rat
two.
folk?
Maybe that's player
And
book
we're at
two.
Player Core 2. I'd be
Player core
great.
Maybe
two.
that's true. That's true. Those could be out then because there's a bunch of different, like lizard folk have been in
Cat folk.
the fantasy setting for a long time, like, and they're
Yeah.
they're
There's
old
cat folk in
school
2E. There is rat folk,
mythology as well.
right?
Well,
Cat
Yeah,
but
folk,
exactly.
rat folk,
so
lizard folk,
Cat
I
Tengu.
don't.
folk.
Yeah.
Tengu, I know they got in advance.
Lupine, but I think lupine is actually I think it's a WotC thing.
Uh-huh.
So I think
It
Tengu
is.
came out in the Advanced Player's Guide.
Uh-huh.
And
I
the
think it did.
idea behind Player Core 1 and Player Core 2 was to encompass the player's handbook, the core rule book from second edition, and the Advanced Player's Guides, sets of ancestries and classes. So that's why you saw like the witch, which we're coming up on time on this one. I don't. We might continue talking in another episode. I don't know yet. Um, but that's part of the reason why the witch was pulled forward and the sorcerer was moved out. They wanted to spend some more time on the sorcerer to make it fit and even pull more away from the different
Like
bloodlines and how that
bloodlines and
came.
stuff. Yeah.
I think bloodlines are sticking around from. I haven't heard anything against that, but the
I,
They're the
witch
I
ones that
is.
like
really
the
came up
sorcerer.
with
I like the
bloodlines.
sorcerer bloodline personally.
Mm-hmm.
But like the
Yeah.
Tengu should, because if it was an advanced player's guide and it's not Player Core 1, it should be in Player Core 2 coming in August.
I hope
Okay.
rat folk will be too, because I still want to build a rat folk swashbuckler.
Well,
I
and
want to be.
if
I
it's
want to
already
be a.
yeah.
if
Yeah.
it's
And
already
like
in second
same with
edition,
vampires.
we
I want
can
to be
do
like
it.
Reaper Sheep from Voyage of the Dawn Treader. I want to. That's what I want to create.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we can look forward to seeing more things. But if
Yeah.
if any of these guys are out there listening, consider broadening changeling within errata,
Yeah.
because I think there's missing out. You can even add in, like you were saying, Don Fey folk
Mm-hmm.
in
Right.
there, and you
Yeah.
just add the types of feats and the types of background selections they can take, and that allows you to tailor your character more
Yeah.
with those choices.
Or
And
at least
I think broadening that would make sense.
or at least providing another versatile heritage that is in line
Yeah.
with that. So if
That's
they're going to
yep.
Yeah.
if they're going to stick with changeling being the hag, which is fine, the hag base, whatever, make sure that we see more. I love the concept of versatile heritage. I mean, the last thing
Yeah.
on there
Like a
was
Viking
your
or
mixed races, mixed ancestries
Yeah. Which have new names, but basically.
for the half elf and the half orc, right?
Yep, they're now the
Yeah.
Yuvarin are was what used to be half elves, and Dromars is what used to be half orc, and they get specific feats for them. Actually, a few. I mean, it doesn't go terribly high, but
They're
they're,
ancestry feats. It's
yeah, the
a
ancestry
common
feats,
thing, yeah.
right? But that's cool. That those are specific. Kind of delving into what it would be to be those mixed races. So
well, other system previous to this also gave, like, you did that as well.
Yeah, that's true.
For
Yeah,
half-orc,
it
half
did.
elf, and like, no offense to these guys, I'm never gonna stop calling it half elf or half orc. It's not offensive. It's
No.
like
Same
it's
here.
meant to be in from one culture and not from the other,
Right.
and
right.
whatever. Like,
But
you're
which
that's
to
from
understand,
Tolkien. Like,
it's understandable, but I also feel, and this is, yeah, I'm just going to leave on this one. I also feel like by giving them a name, Yvarin and Dromar, that it even fleshes them out more as a distinct part of the world. They are.
sure,
This is
yeah,
a group of people by this name that have their own culture, their own heritage, their own this, instead of being assumed of you're one or the other or you're a blend of both. You are yes, genetically a blend of both, but you are unique in your own way by having your own name. I think it's an interesting twist. I agree with you. I'm going to be probably calling half elf. You heard me call it race just a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
Like some
Yeah.
of these terminologies, we're going to just from the
What
past,
is it?
we're going to mess it up. But
What
It's
is it if it's not race?
ancestry,
Ancestry.
ancestry.
it's becoming a terminology shift,
Yeah. It's
especially for
because
those of us that there is only one race. It's a human race, or in
right,
on Earth,
exactly.
or there's only one race. There's the Galarian race, like all the people of Galarian, but versus
Role
the
playing games are trying
ancestry.
to become PC, whatever.
Yeah,
It requires it in some ways. In other ways, I'm like, guys, you maybe like,
Might be pushing it a
A
little
little
bit.
heavy-handed with some stuff.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I
like
would agree to
this
some
doesn't even
extent, but
actually
Yeah.
mean this, and you're making it mean something that it's not. And okay, whatever.
I
You're
think
right. Elithists don't eat the brains of people. They're not all evil.
no,
yeah.
but
Indeed.
I do see the benefit of the term ancestry
Yeah.
because it lays focus on the ancestors and the history of that group of people. Instead of just being identified by what you may look like, you are identified by who you are and who came before you. So I can
Yeah. I think
kind of see that.
I don't think that's a bad idea. And I also like I agree with you. The half elves and half orcs have their own cultural names now. That makes sense. Like
Right.
why wouldn't the elves have had a name for half elves, right? That's obviously a human term or a common term, right?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't the orcs have a name for half orcs? That's culturally relevant. That's
Right.
obviously what the humans call them. Oh, you are half orc. Oh,
Yeah.
you are half elf. And it's clearly evident by their appearance, but not necessarily by their culture, right? And I think that's a thing like where if the cultural aspect of them can be very interesting.
They go
And
into that a
that's
bit um,
yeah,
when they describe if you're going to play one of these, understand this mindset. They go a little bit into that, which is the life of an
mhm,
Uvaran half elf can be difficult, often marked by a struggle to fit in. They don't have their own homeland in Galarian, nor are they tied to each other because because they have very disparate traditions from their parents' ancestry. So they describe them that they have difficulty forming lasting bonds with either side due to their great differences. For example, they have difficulty creating friendship and romance with humans because most of them will outlive their companions. And yet at the same time, they have a much shorter lives than their. So they create that there's a distance from both sides when you are this. So the
yeah,
same idea with the Dromars. How many Dromars can be thought of as monsters because of their orc heritage? That pushes them to the margins of society. So a lot of them are forced into manual labor or crime because of their limited acceptance. They think they're less intelligent sometimes or uncivilized, so they have trouble. So it does delve into that a little more. Like if you're going to play this, you're not just playing it flat as a human or an orc. You should have that struggle inside your characterization of it, which I think is interesting. That's more than I've seen others really delve into that mindset.
oh,
So,
really? Because I like that was from second edition
is it?
on
I
that
don't
exact yeah, completely. That's not
I don't
new.
remember
That's
that.
definitely been
I don't remember
there.
reading
Yeah,
that
yeah,
because
that's
most
100%
okay.
Yeah,
not
no, that
new. That's not a complaint. I'm like there. I'm
No.
like great. They are actively using
Yeah.
um, the past and history of this fantasy we've been playing for a long time to tell the story of what it means in their setting, and
Okay.
they're still using those tropes. They're absolutely still using the original the tropes of what I mean. That's a Tolkien trope right there for half
Oh, yeah.
elf,
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
regardless.
absolutely. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
just described it, and like that's I'm like great. You guys are still using that. That actually makes me. I'm like I like this. I like this. And you're giving the like I said these names. This is now Galarian culture and what they call them and why. And so but I think that is there for brand new players. So when they
Yes.
come to it, they're not just like, yeah, I'm going to choose them for these attributes. They're like, yeah, choose them for the story. Here's
Right.
kind of the thing to think about.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that makes a lot more sense. And that's really awesome that they included that as well.
Yeah.
And that nod to history,
Because most
unlike other
players
people that write role playing games that are fantasy.
Yeah, I'm thinking most players that I've seen that play the half elf or the half orc, I don't normally see that struggle in the way they play it. Now, maybe it's just maybe in that particular thing, but I don't normally feel that.
Well, that's because we often sit at a table that's very accepting of each other.
That's
Okay.
true. I can tell you right now, my brother, my actual brother, and I, Prime, we play brother half orcs, Karthok and Ragthorn,
Mm-hmm.
and we make sure that it is very well known the pride of our heritage as half orcs.
Ah.
We are blatant, mainly me, mainly me.
It's true. I was a
But
game
both
master
of we
for it.
are so like we literally for 25 minutes we came up with our backstory of not just like our relationship as brothers. He's a druid, I'm a barbarian. It works. But also like the heritages of our parents and like where our lineage comes from. Like we are half orcs from half orcs from half orcs from half
Oh.
orcs. Kind of like that's the kind of
Wow.
legacy
So
that
you're
we
pure
have.
blood half orc.
We are pure blood. That is 100% what we say.
Dromars.
We are pure blood half orcs. And when people look at us really weird, I go, "What?" Yeah.
You are.
You want to argue about the semantics of this?
You're
Let's
the
do it.
definition
I have an
of a
intel
Dromars.
of
Not
12
with
as
a
a
dro-
barbarian. Let's do it. Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I find that interesting because we're gonna have to wrap up.
Yeah, I was
on
gonna
this
say we're
one.
gonna have to land this.
But we
plane
have.
sometime.
No,
Well,
I refuse.
That's
Okay,
okay.
all right.
We have backgrounds coming up
It's
next.
been good.
that's
This
true.
has all been
conversation
really good.
in
It's
itself.
true.
So
Holy and unholy, just
Oh.
that was good stuff. Okay. Well, I guess if we're gonna wrap up, we gotta do it right.
Okay.
So, again, thank you so much for joining us on episode 252 of the Established Facts. If this is your first time joining us, this is as random and ADD as it normally is.
Yep.
Just so you're aware what to expect. Are we professionals at this? No.
No.
Do we care?
No.
However,
We care deeply about what we're talking about, though.
That's
absolutely,
right.
we're
You can
passionate.
We are
never argue
passionate.
that we're not passionate.
We are
about
pure
right.
blood passionate.
pure
blood passionate.
That's right, and half crazy.
That's it. That's
Pure
that's the
blood
fact.
half crazy.
That's it. That's
yeah,
the fact.
pure blood half crazies.
That's it.
Okay,
ancestry.
so yeah, exactly.
Dro cuckoo.
Yeah. So on
Move
every
it.
episode of the Established Facts, we like to establish some sort of fun, quippy little line or phrase, a pun, something like that, that's inspired through our conversation. So on our last episode of the established
Established.
of
We
the
established-
established facts
The stable she facts.
of the stable G facts, the established facts, episode 200. Golly, what is
you
happening?
just
to
went
me?
back in 7 years, man.
251.
It's okay, Dom. It's okay.
Okay. We established that when in doubt, don't forget your Pookie.
It's true. It's important.
If you are confused by that line, go back and watch our Red Dragon Inn. What is it? Tales from the Red Dragon Inn. Back
So
to
much
play.
fun.
We had a lot of fun with that game. It is a very good game. Definitely recommend it. So, on episode 252 of the Established Facts, our Pathfinder core workout.
Workout?
We have established, that's right, we have established that all truth of existence can be found on page 7 of the GM core. Page 7, GM core.
I think the second it's fact should definitely be that we are.
We are,
What did you say?
we are
Pure-blooded,
Pure blood
You're-
passionate.
passionate,
and half crazy.
and half crazy.
And half crazy. That being said, thank you guys so much for joining us on the Established Facts, and we will check you later.
Bye.
Adeuces.
Game on.